Hello, I'm Robin. Welcome to Bookspin. It's reading wrap-up time, January 2026, which was a great reading month for me. So let's dive in. Now, the first thing I read this year was Halcyon Years by Alistair Reynolds, which is his newest release. I read this as part of a buddy read with Brandon from the channel Sci-Fi Brandon and Audrey from Audrey Approved. So this is a kind of murder mystery set on a generation ship, and it features a detective who is the resurrected form of Yuri Gagarin, the Soviet cosmonaut. And I really enjoyed this novel. It's fast-paced, it's immersive, the world building is fascinating, and the mysteries are compelling. So if you want to know more about this book, check out the discussion video that I had with Audrey and Brandon. And then I moved on to Norstrilia by Cordwainer Smith. This is his one novel in the Instrumentality of Mankind universe. It's a little difficult to describe in a nutshell, but it's a very weird novel. Tons of ideas get thrown at the reader, and as a Cordwainer Smith fan, there's a lot to enjoy. So I had a fun time with this one. Have a look at the review video if you'd like to know more. I also read The Flying Eyes by J. Hunter Holly, which is a pulp sci-fi horror alien invasion tale from the early 60s. And this is perfect B-movie material. It's a really weird and trippy concept, but it's entertaining and surprisingly dark and violent at times. Now, the characters are a little annoying, especially the protagonist, but it's still an entertaining read. Again, I've got a review video up on the channel if you'd like to know more. Then I read Time's Last Gift by Philip Jose Farmer, which is a time travel novel from 1972, and this was a blast. Philip Jose Farmer rarely lets me down, and this is no exception. The basic premise is 4 scientists get sent from the year 2070 back in time to 12,000 BCE to conduct a scientific and anthropological field study over the course of 4 years. And the picture that Farmer builds of a primitive world in Stone Age Europe, I think is really vivid and compelling. So the team make contact with various tribes that were living there at that time, and they run into all kinds of adventures and episodes throughout their project. It's not quite as weird or as pulpy as some of the other things I've read by Farmer, but things do get pretty wild later on, and there's some really amazing twists. The characters are quite interesting as well. We've got the scientist crew, but we've also got some of the tribespeople that they come to know, and they're all interesting characters. There are a few personal dramas and clashes of personality along the way, mental breakdown, unrequited love, etc. And there's an intriguing mystery surrounding the charismatic leader of the expedition that permeates the story. So I think if you've not read Philip Jose Farmer before, this novel might be a good way of sampling his work. Even if you have read him before and you didn't enjoy him, because I know a lot of people go to Your Scattered Bodies Go as their entry point for Farmer, which I think is quite a divisive book. I really loved it. A lot of people do like it, but it's not for everyone. I think Time's Last Gift could have a wider appeal. It's just a really well crafted story. Gets a bit crazy later on, but honestly, great fun to read. I also read Machine Hood by S.B. Divya. Now, I've read a few things by this author now. I really enjoyed the Alloy Era duology and her novella Runtime, which was fantastic. I don't think I enjoyed Machinehood quite as much as those. It's still an accomplished novel, but it just didn't really capture my attention in the same way. So this book is set in the year 2095. It's a kind of SF thriller on the theme of artificial intelligence and the emergence of this kind of mysterious terrorist group called the Machinehood. It's quite an ambitious novel. It's very inventive in its ideas. It's very thoughtfully written. I mean, it's a decent story, but I found it... I could never really develop an emotional connection with the characters. They just didn't interest me very much. And so the book didn't engage me emotionally. And while the concepts are interesting enough, I wasn't captivated in the same way as S.B. Divya's Meru and Loka. So I think I prefer her far future world building, which is more compelling for me than her near future vision in this novel. That said, still worth a read, especially if you're interested in the theme of sentient AI. It's worth exploring. So let us move on now to February TBR. Now, I'm going to do a themed reading month for February, and the theme is cats. So I'm calling it Feline February. So I've picked out some cat-themed books in my TBR, and I'm going to read them for this month. So starting off with this book, Cats in Space and Other Places, edited by Bill Fawcett. So this is a cat-themed SF anthology. It was published in 1992. I've actually made a start on this one already. I'm on the third story now. And there are a few well-known names in here, such as Ursula Le Guin, Arthur C. Clarke, Heinlein, Anne McCaffrey, and Cordwainer Smith, of course. That is the story list there. So yeah, I'm enjoying this, and I'll let you know how I get on. My second cat-themed book is a novel, a relatively recent release. This is Mort by Robert Rapino, which is a post-apocalyptic novel told from the perspective, I believe, of a feline assassin, and it looks really interesting. I don't know a lot about it, and I don't really know much about this author. This book is the first in a series called The War with No Name, which also features other animals in prominent roles. So if I really like this, I may consider continuing the series. So the third feline-themed book I've got for Feline February is Divine Endurance by Gwyneth Jones. Again, another author I've not read before, and I don't know much about this book. I do know it features a cat. So this is set in Southeast Asia in the far future. And Divine Endurance is the name of the cat, who's a sentient cat. I think it might even be a robot cat. We'll see. I've heard that this book has some pretty weird and wonderful world building. So I'll be interested to give this a try. So I've got those three books. I'm also picking an audiobook for this month, sticking with the theme, although it's not science fiction this time. It's a non-fiction choice with a cat theme, and this is The Interpretation of Cats and Their Owners by Claude Bietta. It's also known under the title The Interpretation of Cats, Understanding the Psychology of Our Feline Companions. So Claude Bieta is a French veterinarian and psychiatrist. And I think this could be interesting. As a cat owner myself, maybe there's something I could learn from this. So those are the books that I've got planned for February. I think later on in the month, I'm going to put a video together to discuss these books, but not, I won't just limit myself to these particular books, but feline science fiction in general. So keep an eye out for that. That's all for today though. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.